Hi, everyone, and welcome to another interview from the ICIS communication team. My name is Ixchel Peyrot, and I am thrilled to announce that this new round of interviews will feature awardees from the recent conference in Glasgow. Today, our interviewee is Dr. Laura Cirelli, recipient of the Early Career Researcher Award, and I am really excited to learn more about her contributions to this scientific community. Hi, Laura, and welcome to this space.
Hi, thanks for the invitation.
So we would love to learn about your research. So what do you think if we start with a brief self-introduction, including the name and location of your laboratory? And also, if you want to talk about the main topic of your research, you are more than welcome.
Yeah, so I'm an assistant professor at the University of Toronto Scarborough in Canada, and I direct the Tempo Lab, which is where we really focus on how infants and young children engage with music. So we ask a lot of questions looking at like how babies share music with their caregiver, how they use music to direct their social behavior and regulate their emotional behavior, and how they perceive and engage with music.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, combining art with, science, right? With perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun interdisciplinary world actually. So, at our music cognition conferences, usually there's people from psychology, but also musicology and ethnomusicology. So it's a fun field where a lot of people are coming at it from different backgrounds. But yeah, blending art with science has been really rewarding.
Okay. And what are like the main results of your studies?
Yeah. Well, one of my early findings, that was something I presented at my very first ICIS as a grad student, focused on how when toddlers share music with other people and actually move in synchrony with them, they are more pro-social toward that person. So we had done a series of experiments in my dissertation looking at if you move in synchrony with a 14-month-old infant versus out of synchrony with them, they actually hand back more needed objects to you in a follow-up phase. And that was exciting for us from the music cog world because it was like a thing that had been found with older people, like older children and adults, where moving together in synchrony, which is something that's really part of music, affects social behavior. So we're finding that really early. But it was also a really fun contribution to the infancy community because it was one of the first papers where you could see selective prosociality towards some individuals over others from toddlers. That was kind of the big exciting thing that people might know my work for because of. But since that early work, I've done a lot of research looking at how parents sing to their infants and how singing lullabies versus play songs affects physiological arousal in both the mom and the baby differently. And we've done a lot of research lately looking at the emergence of dance behavior. So like at what age do kids start dancing and do they dance differently for songs that they know versus don't know? And do they show tempo flexibility? And yeah, how does that auditory motor integration unfold over the early years?
Oh, that's really cute and awesome.
Yeah, the video footage from the study sessions does create really nice fodder for presentations.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what is like the early age you've been studying with dancing acquisition or music?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, their hearing is quite good even when they're born to at least track and respond to music. And they really like to listen to music, like infant directed singing, especially, is really good at capturing baby's attention from the beginning. We see that moving to music tends to emerge like closer to the 6-month mark, like by 6 months, half of parents report that their children are dancing. That's something from another research group, but we've found similar timeline. And we see that by closer to the first birthday, we see that babies will dance, move rhythmically more to music that they are familiar with, even if you mess with the tempo, compared to unfamiliar music. And we see tempo flexibility, so they'll move faster to faster music and slower to slower music in toddlerhood. They don't really get that great at like consistently synchronizing to the beat until really like age 6. But there's tons of individual variability actually, so that's actually really interesting. Most babies are dancing by about 8 months, but some are not dancing until they're like 14, 15, 16 months. So
Wow.
yeah.
Have you done some research linked to language, maybe like the development of language?
I have not, but it is a really exciting topic in the field. Like a lot of people are very interested in how language and music might be related or different. Like they're both sound patterns unfolding over time that communicate something. There's a lot of really cool research looking at how you find correlations between children's rhythmic abilities if they're like drumming along to a musical sequence and their grammar skills. So I think a lot of people in the field are interested in whether there's like transfer effects. Can we use that connection to help improve grammar skills? So that's kind of an open question. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what drives your passion for infant research?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I find it really hard to not think about a developmental question when I'm thinking about something in psychology, like every time there's an adult finding, I'm like, but when does that happen? When does that emerge? So I feel like even as an undergraduate, I was always like, well, but where does it come from? I think it's something that speaks to like the human condition really well. Like if this is something that we think is like an important way that humans think or way that humans perceive the world, then by looking at the earliest humans, the tiniest humans, I should say, we can really learn a lot about how that speaks to human nature, but also how early experience creates these individual differences. So I don't know. I mean, it's just really fun, isn't it? It's very exciting to think about the early experiences. I always kind of start my infancy classes like, does anyone know a baby? Has anyone ever been a baby? Like we all started the same way. But I don't know. I suppose anecdotally, as an undergraduate student, I mean, I really liked my developmental classes more than anything else, but I also taught piano. So, they weren't babies, but they were children. I was working with children one-on-one in that context. But I also worked at a daycare one summer and I found it just like so interesting, especially working with toddlers. Like they can hardly communicate with language, but they communicate in so many other ways. And there's like this whole little social organization, like one kid goes down the slide and then they all line up and wait their turn to go down the slide. Like, that's crazy. How can they do that? They can't even talk to us. So I think I've always just been really amazed by what babies can do. And I think the fun thing in developmental science is trying to come up with new ways of figuring out what their knowledge is when they can't talk to us. Like, I think it's like a fun puzzle.
Yeah, I always think developmental science is like knowing or trying to know about the original knowledge, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Well, and do you have any advice for students interested in this field?
Yeah, I mean, I think my main advice to students, whether they're interested in developmental or other realms of psychology, is to like reflect on what you're passionate about. Like, I suppose that's not a novel piece of advice, but I think like, if you are really building a research career, certainly people go down different tangents and you can gain skills in one lab and then move to another lab and like learn new stuff. We're always learning new stuff, but I think the graduate students who like really love their experience as a graduate student are doing things they are passionate about. So yeah, I mean, I think that's what landed me in music development because I was really like, well, I really like my developmental classes and I love dancing and I love playing the piano. So like, how can I bring those together and think about that for the rest of my career? I think, yeah, asking yourself about how, if you read a paper or a few papers in a field you're thinking about exploring, are you excited? Are you asking more questions? Are you like hungry for more information? Or, is it a chore?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I suppose my advice is like do something that you're passionate doing. But I guess the other really important advice is like it's very, very important to have a good mentor mentee fit. I was really
Yeah.
lucky to have amazing mentors in my postdoc and in my graduate work, and that really, can make or break an academic career. But like I learned so much from them, not just about science, but about life and
Yeah.
being a good human and like supporting other students. So yeah, fit in both the place you work and the things you're thinking about all the time are really important.
Yeah. Thank you so much for those advices. And well, you just talk about that you play piano and you dance. So the other question
Yeah.
is there well, what do you enjoy doing when you're not doing science?
Yeah, I had more time for those before I was also a mother. So I haven't been able to play the piano or dance too much since creating my own little pilot participants.
Okay.
But yeah, so I am a mom of two young kids, 2 and 5 years old. So honestly, when I'm not sciencing, I'm generally hanging out with them, which is a lot of fun and really rewarding and really exhausting. And I suppose when I really have time to myself, I should get back into my piano and dance. That would be wonderful. But I don't know. I think I just like consuming stories, whether it's reading fiction or watching TV.
Okay.
I want to hear about a different world for a while. Escaping to fiction. That's
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's a lovely. And finally, is there anything else you would like to share with us, like something you would like to tell everybody?
It's a nice opportunity maybe for people to reflect on what music meant for them in their own childhood. Like I think, we see a lot of research in my lab and in other people's labs showing that kind of like your experiences with music in early childhood shaped kind of how you integrate music into your life as a parent too. So there's like this intergenerational transmission. So I don't know, maybe stop and think about whether or not you shared music with other people when you were a little kid and what that song was, maybe reflect on that memory. I don't know. Well, yeah, why
Yeah.
not? Yeah.
And well, it has been a pleasure having you here, and I really appreciate the time you've taken for this interview and for sharing the wonderful research conducted in your laboratory, and also as a young researcher. That's amazing.
Thank you. It was a nice chat. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. Take care and see you then.
Bye.